Hey Crash family, what's up? I want to congratulate every single senior that's graduated this year. Congratulations, you made it. So, and as a Crash family and as a leadership team, we have been planning a celebration for you guys. So if you haven't contacted your leader and you are a graduated senior, please contact us individually or on our Instagram page, and we would love to get the information out to you. That way you can be a part. Please make sure that at least you get some type of consent from a parent if it's okay for you guys to be around other people, just because we're still in quarantine and we want to be respectful of everyone's just like space and stuff. So yeah, so just make sure that you contact a leader. We would love to celebrate you. We just cannot wait. And again, congratulations on a huge accomplishment. You guys have made it this far, and we can't wait to see what the future holds for every single one of you guys. So with all that being said, we're going to have a 5-minute countdown. We're going to go into some worship, and then I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, bye-bye for now.
rest my head, laying your promises. Who do I turn to when I'm holding on? So I give you all my soul. And I give all my soul. I give all my soul.
I just wanted to say, first and foremost, thank you so much, not only for today, but even like I was texting you, you have always been such a kind and loving person. And even in some of my toughest seasons and through high school when I had the ears stretched and wearing, like tight pants and like had all the stuff going on, I never remember an instance with you or an interaction with you where it felt negative or unloved, or I somehow, was pushed away. I felt like you always drew people in, really, not only for me, but for my whole family. Like my parents, God bless them, they had a hard time loving us through that season. So, oh man, for you, to just take us in and to love on us, whether up close or from a distance, I'm really grateful. I just want to say thank you for that.
Well, I appreciate that, but at the same time, it was the students who got me through some of the toughest times that people never knew that I was experiencing. And thank you all. My passion was seeing you guys grow and mature and reach the fullness of what God had called you to be. And even if people aren't walking with the Lord, just loving them as humans. I just enjoyed that. So that's what our goal is. The goal of my family is just to love people. That's it.
You do it well. Maybe you can just help us maybe understand, like, how are you doing? How's this season been for you? And I think for me, my heart is always like, how does the church be the church? Like if Jesus were here, what do you think he would be doing? What do you think he would be saying? Maybe just help me understand a little bit of, I can't see past my own, my own lens. And so maybe you can help me, see it.
I think that's a great question. And the way you're posing that is phenomenal, because in this season, I am not hurt. I'm not frustrated, not angered, not trying to prove a point. What happened for me, I came into teaching in San Luis Obispo as a coach. And so I always say I was a coach teaching, but the school that he put me in, I was not only the only African-American teacher, I was the only African-American person at the school for a year. They began to, whether knowing or unknowing, pointing out the differences in people. So you would hear the comments of, when I was coaching basketball at the first school, smile, because we're about to turn off the lights and nobody will be able to see you. Or, if we talked about going to the beach, they would say, I would hear comments from teachers, that were believers, that would say, well, you can't go to the beach because you'll be too dark and we won't see you. So, but it was always under the premise of, we're Christians and we didn't mean it. So all these things were happening, and the expectation again was that you would understand, because it's under the views that we're Christians. Would people make those same comments if they were the only one that was at a job and everybody was African American? Now can you make that same comment? So when I would go to administration and I would say, hey, can we dialogue about this? When I would talk to individuals who are now pastors, were telling me there is no issue, there is no concern. I wasn't trying in any way, Chase, to say we got a big racial war and I wasn't saying that. What I was saying was, there's an issue. Can we get in front of the issue? And can we be proactive? Because if you get to a situation like we are now, we're in a situation that's reactive. Which people are going, oh man, where did this come from? And now there's a response to that reaction. So the way I always put it is, if somebody came to you right now and they're poking you in the side, they're poking you and poking you and poking you, and you say, stop, amen, stop. They keep poking you, and the jab may to you become piercing, but yet and still they think it's funny. Well, what's going to happen is you're going to respond. Now, what's your response? Your response may be to push a hand, maybe clap a hand away. Your response may be to sock somebody. You don't know the coming response. And so now what's happened in our country is there's been a response. So I'm here saying, I was trying to tell many people back here, let's address this back here so that we can be proactive and work together. So that's why I'm sitting and going, I understand it. I understand it from both sides. But what I've try to encourage people to do, a conversation like this is huge.
Yeah.
And I'll explain it why, and I hope I'm not taking too
Please.
time.
Please.
You know, the reason why sharing and dialoguing is so huge, when you contacted me to say, can we dialogue? I'm going, shoot, this is incredible. Many African Americans didn't have the opportunity to articulate. It wasn't the bad people. It wasn't the bad cop. It wasn't the racist individual. That wasn't the problem. The expectation was that there were bad cops. The expectation is that there are racist people. But when you're coming to a person who is a friend or a person you talk to and you say, hey man, this is the issue. And that individual saying to you, no, I don't see it that way. So when the person who you supposedly trust is telling you, no, that's not true, then where do you have the advocate? You have no advocate. Now what you do is you do this.
Yeah.
So two of the greatest things that I've learned in this situation, I have gone through situations first where when I was younger, went to a place, 5th grade, and walked up to a hot dog stand with my sister. Person looked at me, next, and I'm going, what is this? Was in a restaurant in Indianapolis one time with my family. We were refused food. We've experienced that. I've experienced racism that people would never. I gave you the nice stories from the schools, but going back east and in the South, I experienced stuff that you would go, oh my goodness, but I never had the tainted view. Been called the N-word more times than you can imagine. But this is what happens. What happens is when you don't hold on to those views, but that's me. Other people have. So there were 2 major incidences that really began to help me. One was I was at Desert Christian one day. My kids were younger. One was 2 years old. I came home one day from school and I'm seeing him act out. And let me tell you something, Chase, I'm not having it. So I'm coming home, about to engage, and my wife looks at me and she says, Matthew can't articulate what he's going through. He's 2. I'm going, yeah, but he's acting out, he's yelling, he's kicking, and she said, he's 2. Can't articulate it. Well, now if you look at what the African Americans have been going through all this time, many of them couldn't articulate what they were going through. Yeah. They couldn't share it. So people are going, oh my gosh, they just act out and they act this way. Yeah, because they don't have an outlet to articulate it, because if they articulate it, nobody's listening anyway. Yeah. The other side is I brought my kids, one day my wife dropped my kids off to school at lunch. They were probably about 3 or so, and they're running and they're playing around, and a teacher comes up to me and he says, man, this is the best thing ever could have happened. Okay. He said, your kids running around with everybody at lunch today has humanized you. What? He said, see, we look at you as the principal and the leader and our boss, and the expectation is this is the job that you have. But nobody looks at you today. Nobody's looking at you like that today. They see you as a husband. They see you as a father. You have been humanized. So what's happened is this: the police aren't viewed as husbands, fathers, sons. They're viewed as people that have a uniform, that have been against a group of people. And so we've stopped seeing the humans behind this. And we have just started to look at a uniform. Yeah, wow. So when you look at the 2 sides, and I just sat down with a group of law enforcement officers a week ago. Captains, sheriff, captains, lieutenants, sat down with them, with a couple of other guys, and we were humans.
Yeah.
And I walked away from that meeting, and the guy who had organized it called me that night, and he said, "Hey, Devin, how do you feel?" And I said, "Hey, man," I said, "I'm free." For once in a long time, it was me that's free, because I've been able to articulate the hurts and my concerns that I've had. I've gone to the pastor here to say, "Hey, can we chat? Can we talk?" "Yeah, we'll do it. We'll get to you." How in the heck? But I've spoken to church multiple times. My kids are heavily involved in the church, but yet and still, you look at us, the way I feel is, you look at us as, yeah, good family, good people. My wife, we're all there supporting. But when I need you or me to articulate the hurts and us to work together, we're again waiting to be reactive rather than getting in the front of it to be proactive.
Wow.
So I hope that makes sense.
No, it does.
With this.
Well, let me ask you this, and I've had an experience, and I'll see if this is at all, if it is similar or different, and maybe you can help me understand. There was a time just in life that I was facing some difficulty, felt like it was important, it was big to me, and spent some time dialoguing with someone about it, and their response to me was just kind of confusion, or like, why is that, like, that's not that big of a deal. Or that's not really, like, your hurt, what it felt like was your hurt is invalid, or your pain is invalid. Is that kind of the general sense?
Exactly. The sense becomes what a key saying or a common saying from me is, nothing matters until it personally affects you. When it affects you, then all of a sudden it matters. So what you were just saying is exactly right. I'm hurt. Can we share? Let me tell you, can we share? Sometimes I don't need the answer.
Sure.
Need an answer. All I need is for you to listen and identify.
Yeah.
So when somebody's saying, that's hurtful.
Yes.
Now your hurt becomes magnified by somebody not being receptive.
Yes.
And now all of a sudden, where do I go?
Yes.
So if I go as African American, if I go over here with more African Americans, then all of a sudden I'm trying to turn into a militant. But I can't go over here with all Caucasians. If I go over here with all the Caucasians, they don't identify, but yet and still they'll say, we don't look at him as, we don't see color when we see him. You don't see color when you see me, because I identify with you and your culture.
Wow.
The minute I don't identify, now I'm viewed as this. This is a hard part. This is a hard part when it comes to especially working, whether it is in ministry, whether it is for African American, especially if they're in a Caucasian church at times. This becomes the tough part. When I was at Desert Christian, I was viewed almost as an uncle in American families that were associated with Desert Christian.
Wow.
There were African American families, Chase, that would not talk to me because they felt I was more on the side of whites.
Oh man.
So it was you were in between and nobody knew. So people, what they looked at was, oh, a guy happy-go-lucky, loves the kids, and just goes about his business. Nobody knew the internal hurts, because there were families that if you went to an event, there were families, African-American as well as Caucasian. Nobody knew the Caucasians that didn't like me either. There were families that wouldn't even sit next to me, less known, talk. If you said, hi, how are you? Just keep on going, act like they didn't hear you. So you were caught in between, knowing that I'm just going to stand for what's right.
Yeah.
So what you're dealing with today is what happened back here. Don't let anybody say that the situation is George Floyd passed away. the knee on his neck and people had just got tired. No, they were tired of what was happening back here, people not understanding them back here, and it got to here, oh my gosh, we're exhausted of this. This is happening. So for my heart, I was saying back here to the Christian community, let's dialogue about this.
Yeah.
But like the situation you went through, the Christian community was saying, we're good.
Yeah.
Because I don't see it. It's not happening to me.
Yeah.
I said, when there's cancer in a body, every portion of the body rallies to that portion. Something hurts, we rally. I said, but in church, there's a cancer. The cancer is that the African Americans are hurt and the Caucasians are saying that's not true. And I said, so my question becomes, who's in the body? Who's part of the body? If every portion of the body rallies, then who's in the body?
Sure.
So when you're dealing with this in the church, the church has to be in the forefront of bringing healing.
Yeah.
It can't just be that somebody is preaching and preaching and we need you to be this way, this way, this way. And then yet and still there's somebody next to you that you never feel, that you never identify with. So I'm hoping that makes sense.
No, it does. And I think for me, I think it's hard for me to, like, even talking about this, it's hard to articulate exactly how I feel. I guess I feel sorrow or frustration on your behalf, but it's not that I can apologize for this other pastor's mistake or, his limited perspective or, simplistic view or, all of that. But I think that's where maybe some of the even students in my ministry or leaders are like, okay, do we apologize? We didn't do everything, but we probably contributed in some sort of way, or, like what would be meaningful or what would be, well received maybe? Like how can we go about that? Because I think I'm sitting here like, dang, like I want to do something, but I'm kind of confused,
I think that's a great point. I think your point is great and well taken, because I've heard the same question over and over, what can be done? So I'll put it like this. You're in a tough position too. You're in a tough position because the analogy I would use with this is, what do you do when somebody who has a dear family member passes away?
Yeah. Wow.
That's an awkward position. Do you call them and say, I'm sorry, what can I do? That's an awkward time. So this now has become an awkward time. It's a time of great emotion. I'm hurt. I feel, man, I don't know if I feel responsible. I don't know what to feel. But the reality is this: the African Americans are not saying to the individuals who care, you need to do this. What we're doing today, is what's needed.
Awesome.
The conversation, I'll walk off of this today and I'll cry and I'll rejoice in the tears, because what's happening, there's healing in this. There's healing for me to be able to articulate my hurts, my concerns, and somebody just goes, thank you.
Yeah.
I get it. That makes sense. That's all. Because what else really can be done? You can't. It's no different with the person who lost a loved one. You can give them as much as you can. You can give them money. You can do it. That doesn't take away the hurt at the moment. It's time. And and this is what happens, Chase. The conversation has to continue. Because what happens is now it becomes one conversation. We're done. We heard it. We move on. That's what's happened in the past.
Yeah.
The issue wasn't a 1 day, 1 hour situation.
Sure.
This has been going on for years. So with it going on for years, we now have to address it, and it's going to take time for us to heal.
Yeah.
And if we're going to heal, let's heal together. If we look at this situation like a marriage, we're going to be okay. The reason why is because there are times in a marriage that the husband or the wife has done something that has adversely affected the other member.
Yeah.
Blah, 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 blah. Yeah. It's one thing for me to hear her. It's another thing for me to listen to her and be intentional on how I go about fixing this.
Yeah.
It takes time for us to work through those issues as compared to me just hear and blow her off.
Yeah.
So if we stay engaged in a conversation through love, I have nothing today to prove. I have a whole lot to share.
Yeah.
And I'm receptive to you sharing with me as well. Yeah. Now we can work together.
Yeah.
And it may take, like I said, it may take a month, may take 10 months, may take a year, may take 5 years.
Yeah.
But that's how we'll come together and love one another and get through this.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for, even sharing your personal stories, because I think some of us see and look, to history to say, well, slavery ended here, or Jim Crow ended here, or, and that is our limited perspective, that because those legislations maybe had ended didn't mean that the fault, that necessarily behavior changed. And I think that's something that I didn't even realize could have been experienced within the last number of years. And so I had no clue. And just so thank you for sharing that, because I think our students and our leaders and everything are just sitting here like, we see these dates, but don't understand that just because you legal or legislate something doesn't mean people's behavior or their actions or they're
right
immediately. So,
and that's what African Americans have been used to, is the legislation of it didn't mean that the hearts and minds of the individuals changed. You can't, because what you can't do is you can't legislate a heart. You can't legislate that. You can't legislate morality.
Yeah.
You that becomes the heart of the individual. So imagine I'm at a public school as a vice principal today, as a dean of students. I'm at a public school and have never felt or experienced the true love that I've experienced in any other school. It was the Christian schools that turned around and pierced me way more than a public school has pierced me, not because of just the expectation, but because for me, it was the reality of, again, the supposed legislation or scripture that is supposed to call people to treat someone a certain way. So now all of a sudden we must be treating him this way because that's what the Bible says.
Wow.
Now, did it mean that people meant to do it? I don't think so.
Yeah.
And did everybody do it? No. I mean, I can call names off of adults that I'm like, man, I had to lean on them. I didn't have nobody else. That they just were pillars and rocks I'll never forget. But who got me through everything? It was the students. It was the students that saved me. Because they really loved me. I felt they loved me. The ones who did loved me for what it was. So that's why I say thank you. You guys were more to me and got me through those hurts. Without you, I never would have made it. There were days I just thought of walking out and saying I'm done.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Wow. Well, could I ask you one more question?
You got whatever you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So through your experience, I guess within church work, I think it's devastating to hear that some of the church, whether churches specifically or church organizations, whether the schools, seem to have gotten it more wrong. You know how you're talking about between the public school you're in right now and the private school, and how the disparity, that's horrible. But how do we, as like our church, who's wanting desperately to do this well, we have Hispanic, we have a large congregation of Hispanic, white, smaller African American, but how, especially from your perspective, how do we bring them in to draw them in, or to create a space for, I don't know how to have the language for it, but how to make them feel, like you said, a part of the body, not just, so we can rally to them, like you were talking about earlier, and support them. I don't know if that makes sense.
Super question. There has to be a small group, intimate setting, where people are able to address the hurts and concerns. Now, again, nothing matters till it personally affects you. When I was sitting down with those police officers a week or so ago, where the conversation came from was a chaplain who the sheriff is very close to, and the chaplain's African American, sheriff is Caucasian, and the chaplain told him, man, I'm nervous for my kid going up north because I don't know how the police are going to treat him.
Wow. The
sheriff now is personally affected because that's his buddy. So the sheriff was saying, we're going to get all the captains, lieutenants, everybody in, and we're going to dialogue about that. So it takes a small group to come together, somebody who you're personally affected by, that you personally have a relationship with, to come together to share. And then what happens is you turn around after you get this small group, it begins to branch out and branch out and branch out more. And I took a small group of students and we dealt deeply in the racial relations. And I told Micah, and there was another Caucasian, I said, you guys are going to be the ones that are most hurt in here, because with all the different people, you're now the minority.
Wow.
But just stay engaged.
Yeah.
Because you're going to find out we're now going to all have connections and love for each other, because you're going to identify, I didn't know that. I didn't know this. I didn't know this. And as that happened, Chase, we start branching out.
Wow.
We start branching out. And then we eventually shared it in an assembly. But it took us a while for us to identify the stereotypes, this, and we addressed it all, but we did it loving one another. And the kids that stayed engaged, they enjoyed it, and they became very connected. And it wasn't, I never was trying to prove a point. I was trying to share that, man, here at Desert Christian, we got to a point where loving one another is just, it was the common thing to do.
Yeah.
So when I looked online and I've seen pastors that I personally knew and I personally addressed, turn it around and say, right on there, let's pray for George Floyd's family and blah, blah, blah. It wasn't that I was judging going, oh yeah, right. What I was saying is, what my thought process was, is this the common thing to do? Now, all of a sudden, it's a common thing to do. So everybody's throwing out that. But the reality is, are you bringing people together to understand the hurts? So that's why I went to my own pastor, because he has a relationship with my boys. And my boy, my son was called a monkey in school this year. I was in a time where my son was homecoming king as a freshman.
Wow.
I was petrified the night that he was crowned. There's maybe 2% African American at his school.
Wow.
So I'm sitting there going, shoot, who's going to call him a name? Who's going to do this? On a night I should have been rejoicing and happy for my son. I'm sitting there when he says, Dad, can I go to the homecoming dance? And I'm going, are you wearing that crown? Yes, sir. And I'm going, oh, shoot. And I'm sitting up all night or all until he gets there. And the first thing I ask him, Chase, is, was everything okay? Was it all right? So what I'm saying is that should have been, in my opinion, should have been what drew the conversation between me and those people in the body to say, hey, how do we get past this?
Yes.
How do we address this? So as I would encourage you guys to get yourself a small group, I would encourage all churches, get a small group, address it, share it, stay engaged, eventually start bringing others involved to share what you found, how you found it, and then you can bring it out. You'll change a whole community by learning what it is to identify with the diverse perspectives and loving each other from everybody's different background.
Yeah.
You can't just turn around and say, everybody can't say, we're one. Because no, they're coming into your environment. They have to adapt to your environment, which means they have to adapt to your mindset.
Yeah.
And so the leaders don't have to adapt to the mindset of others. That's why, put it like this. What was it like for you when you went to Hillsong? Did Hillsong adapt to you, or did you adapt to Hillsong?
I adapted, no doubt.
Okay.
I'll tell you a story, actually. I don't know if I ever told you, my wife is French, and I went and visited her in France, and her mom was attending. They have a large African population there in certain areas. I went and attended a French-speaking African church, and they definitely didn't cater to me. They didn't start speaking in English. They didn't, worry about what am I comfortable with. I had to do things I was super uncomfortable with. And I never had experienced something like that. They did a new person welcome song. And so I'm sitting there, and then I get elbowed because, they're talking. I don't speak French that well. I understand some words, but it's a different language, and I get elbowed, and my now wife was saying, stand up. And I'm looking around like, nobody else is standing. I'm not standing. She said, stand up. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And she's like, it's a new person song. You're the new person. Stand up. And so I stood up, and they sang me a song. But to speak to your point exactly, they did not cater to me.
Right.
And I was a part of their thing. And I'm okay, obviously that was a one experience instead of a lifetime experience. So it doesn't even compare, but I think I understand what you're getting at and you're saying.
Mm-hmm. And you guys, you honestly will see the change. But you have to also understand, there will be people that have never experienced anything. Mm-hmm. And that's what it seems that many people are looking for, is, well, this African-American never experienced it, so that's what every African-American has gone through. No, that's not true. That's not true. Everybody has gone through different experiences, and now how do we rejoice and relate and even celebrate the different experiences where that person knows that they're valued? That's it.
Yeah.
So this is healing. It's very much healing when you're having a conversation like this, and I'm telling you, you'll change your whole community. You will. It's real simple.
I think T.D. Jakes, he was just doing an interview, and he said, he was talking to this gentleman. He said, people will invite me onto their stage, but do they invite me into their life? Do they invite me into their house? Do they invite me to their table? And that wrecked me. That really hit me, because I was like, do we just, give them a voice for a moment, or do we actually allow them to speak into our lives, and be a part of this, this community where it's give and take, it's equal footing, it's a table where we're all sharing and eating and communing. And I don't think I've done that well. And sometimes I'm at a loss to how to do that. But I think when you break it down, to have a meal with somebody. Have a meal with somebody.
Very small. And that's the problem with this situation here, is the way I've personally felt is, especially being in 2 Christian schools and being loved. I can't say I wasn't, I felt love, but there were things that just were hurtful more that will never be taken away, but have been healed. But I'll put it like this. I left the Christian schools going, America wants me to love America, but America doesn't love me. That's how I felt. It's all about, again, different perspectives, loving one another. You will definitely identify with it because your wife comes from a different perspective, a different background. How many people have really taken the time to understand and want to learn about her background?
Yeah.
In depth.
Yeah.
To say, what has this been like? What's it like being over here?
Mm.
Who even cares? They don't have to.
Yeah.
They don't have to.
Yeah.
And that's what hurts.
Yes.
That's what eventually hurts.
Yes. Wow.
No, it's you're on the right track. Don't dare stop. Keep going. Keep going. You're on the right track. And you're the right person to do it.
Thank you.
You're truly the right person to do it, and your wife will help.
Oh, she's helping.
Yeah,
She's helping.
That's what I'm saying. Because you have a perspective, and you have to have a respect that nobody else really has to have.
Hmm.
You're not going back in her community and just dominating that community. You ain't doing that. So you really have an opportunity to share and be receptive to learn and enjoy it. Enjoy the learning process. That's what I'm excited about.
I love that perspective because I think, it can get so serious and tense but to take the perspective of just enjoying hearing somebody and understanding and getting to know them, I think, that excites me to actually expand, my view and my my group, my community, cool. Tell me, what is your what is your reality? How have you engaged within this church? What is it to walk through these doors? Because I'm thinking back now, I'm like, okay, I've been in a situation that I think growing up in church, I was always I was there all the time. So of course it's comfortable for me. I never questioned if it was comfortable for anyone else because I was always there. Mm-hmm. And so walk into a different circumstance, I'm like, this is very uncomfortable. This is, So
you don't know how people receive you. You don't know. I mean, the basic, I was playing bocce ball. I just learned how to play bocce ball in last year, and it was at a winery. I walked into the winery, and as old as I am, what my responsibility is I got to go in and I got to see, I'm looking for someone that identifies with me. Wow. Just so happened one of the employees, one of the secretaries at our job, she had invited me. I went, she stood up and she hugged me, and I told her later on, I said, you'll never know what that did. Because I'm in there by myself. Wasn't no other African American, wasn't no Hispanic. I'm by myself, but that's a daily occurrence.
Wow.
That's happening at weddings. That's happening at church every week. When I go into church, Chase, I'm looking around to see who's receptive.
Yeah.
Who's doing that? When I went to back to school night for my boys, my wife is sitting there. One boy is going one way, one's going the other way to different classes. My wife is looking, and most parents are looking to see how will your kid get a good grade. You know what I was looking for? I'm looking to see who's going to be an advocate at the high school if my kid ever if there's a situation that becomes uncomfortable or there become fights or whatever. I'm looking for who's going to be an advocate. So what did I tell my boys? Hey, your math teacher is your advocate. We get in the car, your math teacher is your advocate.
Awesome.
Go sit in your math teacher's class at lunch at least twice a week so she gets to know who you are.
Yeah.
Who else is doing that?
Yeah.
That's when I was explaining that to the officers, they were going, oh my gosh, who in here has to do something like that?
Yeah.
They know exactly how to turn around, and if they're pulled over by a police officer, they've been told since the time they were in 5th, 6th grade, this is exactly what you do. You put your hands here, you ask, can you turn on your phone? You ask, can you call your dad and have it on speakerphone? You ask, can you reach in your pocket? You ask, can you go in your glove compartment and get your identification, that car identification? But the fear becomes, what if I forgot to tell them something? What if there was something I left out that's now going to cost them their life?
Wow. To hear that is a reality, I think, just is so helpful to understand that we don't all have a similar experience.
Right.
There's very different experiences, and like you were saying, I not that I can fix that for you, or like we can do anything, but just to be able to be heard and just know that, man, that's scary.
Mm-hmm.
Like thinking about that, I have to, like you're saying, outline all of these things and not forget anything from my boy, so that he doesn't get into a situation that he could lose his life over something like that. That's horrible.
These are conversations that are not meant to.
Sure.
No, it's conversations that I can now share with you and go, this is what I've had to do and what I do and talk about on a daily basis. But I have to do my part. And that's where the conversation becomes, well, do I have to do that? Have I ever thought about that? Did my parents have to? That's how we become communal. And we have dialogue where it's good dialogue. Now, I'll end it with this because I know you got to go. Articulation brings about such a peace. And I'm going to explain why. Remember when the protests first started?
Mm-hmm.
When the protests first started, were they very confrontational and combative, and people were out fighting? But if you've noticed, as the protests have continued, you've noticed that they've become what? More peaceful. Because the individuals have had an opportunity to articulate their hurts and their concerns.
Wow.
And people are hearing them.
Wow.
That's how you'll bring healing.
Yeah.
How did we heal, even as individuals spiritually? What we did was we first confessed.
Yeah.
And when you begin to articulate and confess and share, and when we confessed it, our loving Savior was receptive to our confession. And when that happened, now all of a sudden there's peace within us.
Yeah.
So, no, but I thank you. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share. Again, it's healing.
Yeah.
It's healing for me.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
All right.
So good catching up. And
that's good. Let me close us in prayer.
Please, that would be great.
Father, I praise you for this time. Lord, I am just honored. I'm honored to share with your servant. And Lord, I thank you so much for, Lord, just what you're doing in both of our lives. And I pray, Lord, as you help Journey navigate, Lord, with members and how things can be just brought to a head where they have to have the tough conversations, but let the conversations be loving. Let this be just the beginning of the relationships, Lord, that you so desire for your body. Let them be an example for that community of how your love speaks volumes to each and every member from every different walk of life. To you be glory and honor. And Lord, this day I decree your blessings and your bountiful love, that it would permeate the hearts of each individual that is receptive of you. I praise you this day for that. I thank you, Lord, that this church will be a resounding symbol throughout the valley, throughout the state,